What's up, everyone? This is Michael. I'm the founder and CEO of WorkOS, and I'm here at AWS reInvent with Kyle from Depot. Kyle,
Hi.
how's it going?
Yeah, it's doing great. It's awesome to see all the awesome companies here at the expo here at
Yeah, it's
reInvent.
crazy.
Feels like it grows every year.
It's bigger and bigger. I sometimes call it like Coachella for a cloud
Huh.
SaaS. It's
Yeah,
like everybody is here.
it definitely has that vibe.
Yeah,
It's like it just keeps growing and growing, and it feels like everything just keeps moving up too. It's
yeah. The
wild.
booths are literally getting bigger,
Yeah,
bigger
they're
and
literally
bigger.
getting bigger and bigger.
So this is your. You've been here a few years before,
Yeah,
second or
I think
third
this is
or
like my sixth or
sixth
seventh.
year. Okay.
Yeah.
How has reInvent changed since you've been coming over the years?
Yeah, I think reInvent, when I first came, it was maybe like 25,000 people. And now there's like 90,000 people throughout the week.
All the hotels are booked.
All the hotels are booked. Like it's
Yeah.
all spread out across the strip. Like first reInvent for me was like one hotel, which just one hotel in Las Vegas is massive. So seeing it up and down the strip is wild.
It's weird seeing ads for like cloud security companies and infrastructure
Yeah.
on, usually where they have the like ads for the big fights that happen or
Yeah.
Celine Dion or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like Datadog.
Yeah. It's wild to like walk through the Venetian and see all of the restaurants booked by Datadog and Anthropic and MongoDB, things like that.
Yeah. So we're
Yeah.
right in the middle of it. Tell the people watching, what is Depot?
Yeah. So Depot's a build acceleration platform. We focus on making builds exponentially faster. So we started with accelerating container image builds, really focused on building Docker images inside of CI, like GitHub Actions or Circle CI. And we were working as platform engineers, and we just got fed up with slow image builds, and so built the solution that we wanted for ourselves. And then took that idea into Y Combinator in winter 2023, built that product for a year, and then really like expanded into general build performance and build acceleration. And so today we have our original container image build product, GitHub Action Runners. We have our own remote cache service, working on agent sandboxes, and have our own container registry as well.
Wow. Wow. I want to talk about a few of those in more depth. So builds have always been a thing that people have had in software, going back to like
Yeah.
your make files and
Yeah.
compiling code, and all of that, having kind of a consistent, repeatable artifact. Um, you obviously make it faster, and I know there's people that have switched away from like GitHub Actions or other types of build systems. What's different now, like this year, that you've seen? I'm
Yeah.
curious specifically around like how new products are getting built or how AI applications are architected.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like saying water is wet at the moment, but AI is producing exponentially more code. There's exponentially more code entering the delivery pipeline, which means you have exponentially more code that needs to be built, tested, deployed. So we're seeing like a massive uptick in sheer build volume. And you're starting to see like the real strain on the delivery pipeline, where I think CI and CD in particular oftentimes has been thought of as like this weird middle ground of like it needs to pass through here to get to production, but it's not production. And now people are seeing like, oh, like this is the bottleneck now. Like we need to remove this bottleneck because it's slowing down our velocity of getting stuff to production. Like the bottleneck's no longer really at the point of writing code. Like we can create exponentially more code now. And so it's putting strain onto the delivery pipeline. So we're just seeing like a massive uptick in the amount of code that needs to be built.
I was having dinner last night with some folks from CodeRabbit.
Yeah.
Same kind of idea,
Yep.
right?
It's
Where
the pull requests, it's the source code hosting, it's the builds, it's the tests. All of this code is just putting strain on all of the things that we've been using for the last 10, 15 years. And all of those things are like very human centric today, right? And we need to start adapting new processes and new tools to essentially remove the human centric component, but like keep the safety and the correct like build output and things like that to accelerate things forward.
I want you to talk more about that specifically. Like, I feel like the first thing when you started talking about Depot, you were saying you accelerate it. It was like more of them, we'll run it faster, we'll do more efficient.
Yeah.
And that certainly needed a few like 10 or 100x the number of, builds essentially going through your pipeline. But you mentioned here like correctness is more important and kind of durability around it. I'm curious
Yeah.
like what you're seeing around how people are using AI to achieve that, or it's
Yeah.
not just more, it's better.
It's more and it's better and it's more performant. And so when it comes to correctness, uh even if there's exponentially more builds and you build them exponentially faster, they have to be correct at the end. Because if they're not correct, people could care less about whether it's faster. Um, and so you really have to come from the angle of it's correct first and then work on performance. That's something that that's built into Depot from the very beginning, is people have to be able to trust the build system and be able to trust that what we're doing to accelerate builds isn't corrupting their builds. So we're very transparent about all of the things that we do to accelerate builds across all of the products. Because correctness at the end of the day, that's the fundamental component to builds.
What else are you seeing change around the kind of software development lifecycle to the delivery pipeline into production?
Yeah,
What else is changing?
I think there's a lot more strain happening at the source code hosting level, and we're seeing more and more of it, right? I think there's
alternatives to GitHub, or
I think there's a lot of opportunity to have alternatives to GitHub. We're starting to see that GitHub is going through its own transition of growing pains and reliability issues. And now, it's moving into Microsoft proper, which is something that we thought was going to happen 10 years ago when the acquisition first happened, and now it's finally happening.
Seems like there's not a lot of optimism around that or excitement around that transition.
I think there's generally not a lot of optimism around that.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, but, GitHub has changed the game when it comes to software delivery. But I feel like at the moment, there's a lot of ideas around how do we adopt or adapt this new technology in AI and LLMs and bend it to our existing processes and our existing tools, which is GitHub, Git workflows, all of this human centric. And I think for me, that's the wrong angle to come at it from. I'd much rather come at it from the angle of we have these new tools, we have these new technologies. How can we leverage them to create new systems that are more performant, that are more reliable, that look at these existing things that we've been doing for the past 10 years from a new angle?
I want to ask about the software supply chain piece a little bit, because that's been sort of close to the code base conversation. And I know this isn't exactly what you guys work on or provide, but it's sort of, you're after that step in terms of the build system. It seems like there's an increasing concern around this because there's so many products that are vibe coded using third-party dependencies or tracing things through. It was a problem previously. Now it's one of these problems that's 100x.
Yeah.
And there was that whole Shai Hulud thing the last, week or two. What are you seeing there in terms of new vendors that people are using around this, or just maybe even how you as a company approach security of your own dependencies and your subsystems?
Yeah, we're definitely starting to see. So we've started to bake more things into Depot in this realm. So one of the things that we've added to our GitHub action runners is effectively egress controls. So you can monitor your entire egress network traffic out from your CI job.
That's cool.
To know what your job is talking out to.
Because that's like an exfiltration vector for data. I mean, you get into the build and dump the secrets somewhere and
yep, exactly.
You're cooked. Yeah.
And so we can essentially put ACLs on the GitHub action runners now, that if they try to phone out to a DNS name that you have not put in your allow list, it fails the build. So data can't get exfiltrated out of the job. And I think that is becoming more and more relevant. People are starting to look at what can I do to secure my supply chain from beginning to end. So there's a lot of things around okay, dependencies. We have Dependabot. We have things like that. We have the latest vulnerability of NPM getting compromised. But how can we detect those things during the CI phase so they never even make it to production?
Yeah.
And I think egress controls is one of the things that we're doing that is raising that bar up a level. That's something that GitHub doesn't offer. Circle CI doesn't offer that. You would have to run your own runners and create your own configurations in your environment to have something anywhere close to that.
I feel like the build step, a lot of people don't think about as this sensitive moment in their actual software kind of reliability stack. We had an issue during the October 20th AWS outage where a vendor of ours that we were using, we were failing to deploy because inside of their build system, we didn't have any telemetry or observability around what was happening.
Yeah.
And as part of our build, it was calling out to a third party that was failing because of the outage.
Yeah.
It was this like, secondary, tertiary failure effect.
Yeah.
But it failed in the build system. And because of that, we couldn't fix it. We didn't have visibility, and we couldn't actually ship new updates to push the product forward. It was this huge headache for us. We've done all this work around resilience engineering while we're in production.
Yeah.
But in the build system, people don't really think about it.
Yeah, and I think that's what, coming back to my comment earlier, I think we're starting to see more and more, as more strain is put on the delivery pipeline, as we're creating exponentially more code, people are starting to realize that like the CI build pipeline, the delivery pipeline, that is a production system and needs to be treated as a production system. And you need to deeply understand everything that it's doing and what are all your dependencies in that environment, so that when something goes wrong, you know what you can do to like work around the issue or create like a highly available like CI system. Yeah.
I also have to ask about agents. So like, everyone's, like the A word, everyone's talking about it. It's everywhere. Agents now are writing code. Agents are kicking off builds. Agents are even deciding to deploy code. What's your perspective on that? What are you seeing from Depot's vantage point?
We're starting to see more and more requests for like an API for everything. Like, give me an API for everything.
Is it MCP now for everything?
I think MCP's kind of like run its course, at least from our perspective. Like we started with like MCP and people were like, yeah, like this works. And now people are starting to realize that like, actually, I don't really want to stuff my entire context window with all of these tools. So like, can you just give me an API and I'll write a quick script, or I'll have an agent write a quick script that knows like how to kick off this build or extract the logs.
And it works every time.
Time, right? And so I think for us, we're seeing a lot of people integrating at our API. And anytime we release a new feature inside of the app, people are like, oh, can I also get an API for that? Because they're like stitching it together to essentially create like their own agents for interacting with Depot. And I think that's like really, really important when it comes to developer tools. I was actually listening to a podcast or a conference talk that Dax was on, and he was talking about like the best developer tools are flexible, meaning that like people don't outgrow, like your customers don't outgrow your tool, right? So you have to stay flexible. And I think that's all about like surfacing the building blocks. I think where some developer tools go wrong is they create this like product or service and then they don't expose any of the building blocks. So like it solves that particular pain point with a solution, but customers like outgrow that pain point. And now like you don't have the building blocks to surface that. And so I think tying it back to agents, surfacing more APIs, surfacing like more capabilities so that the system is flexible for other consumers and other like pain points that could arrive
Human,
in the future.
machine, agent, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Last question for you. You've been at reInvent for 6 years. You're a veteran.
Yeah.
What are you most excited to see here this year?
I always enjoy the infrastructure talks, the infrastructure keynote. You get a really fascinating glimpse into like how AWS is built and like AWS scale of problems, right? So going to those talks and learning more about what are the things they are doing to make systems more redundant, more reliable. How are they thinking about AI agents at scale? Like, how are they thinking about those systems? So those keynotes are really cool. My second favorite thing to do at reInvent is really to just go to all of the happy hours and meet all of the companies. I think it's really cool. One of the first reInvent, it was like you would go to a happy hour sponsored by like one company, and it kind of felt like a sales pitch. And now, like most happy hours are sponsored by like 3-4 different companies.
Yeah, we're doing one tonight with Temporal and Graphite.
Yeah, exactly. And you get a chance to like learn about different problems, different domains, and it's not really like a sales pitch. You're just there to like hang out with people that are like-minded, that are interested in the technologies. So those are a ton of fun.